Chapter 1. Run! The command coursed through Phelan's mind. The chance to fight, to defeat, was over. He must flee. Phelan knew that running was his only chance of survival, but the fact of the matter remained. How was he going to do that? A foot rammed into his stomach, squashing the air from his lungs. Phelan snarled, whirling around to snap at his attacker's throat, infuriated when the man leaped nimbly away. There were two of them, adversaries that should have posed no threat to Phelan, but as the second creature jumped onto his back, he had no choice but to acknowledge that these two were different. Giving up on his first opponent for a moment, Phelan turned his attention to the one on his back, rolling across the ground in an attempt to dislodge the changeling, whose chokehold instantly loosened when Phelan's immense body crushed him into the ground. Using the momentary advantage, Phelan sprang away, pivoting until he had both in his sight. For an instant, Phelan simply stared at them, unable to believe that they were, in fact, changelings. But the fact was undeniable. The violet eyes and pale skin commanded him to acknowledge the truth. Normally, Phelan would have been unaffected by this information, but as he watched those calm, almost civilized eyes watching him, so unlike what they should be, he knew that he had to flee. Phelan snarled viciously. God, he hated vampires, and he hated that there was nothing he could do about these two even more. Slowly, he backed from them, his eyes never flicking away. Retreating 10 feet, Phelan stared when neither of them followed. Instead, they merely watched, their strange eyes glinting at him. Before either could attack, Phelan whirled and dashed away, weaving quickly through the trees. Phelan swore under his breath, furious that he had been unable to subdue the two changelings. He racked his mind for a reason, any reason, why the changelings had behaved so strangely. But he couldn't figure out why, at this very moment, the two neither chased him nor seemed as if they had had any intention of harming him in the first place. He threw a glance over his massive shoulder, frantically searching for any sign of them, unnerved when he realized that he was alone. Phelan slowed to a walk, suddenly uncertain if the two vampires had actually been changelings. But their physical appearances were undeniable, and a flicker of fear coursed through him as he wondered how they had been so controlled. Phelan knew the news meant a report to his father. He figured Kenrick would surely be irritated with him at his failure to execute the changelings, but the probable confrontation was not enough to keep him from returning home. He knew it was foolish to be outside at night. Phelan shifted when he reached the edges of the houses. Strong, powerful bones compacted as they morphed into the human skeleton. A thick wolf coat disappeared and was replaced with a mop of curly blonde hair, the tail vanishing last. He hurriedly changed into the clothes that he had left before he shifted, not wanting anyone to wander by and accidentally see him naked, despite the fact that the wolves were used to any sight of nudity. Phelan still found it embarrassing when someone caught him. The smells of his mother's cooking wafted outside as Phelan climbed the stone steps to the door. Hoping to use the meal as a distraction, he crept toward the kitchen, trying to make his steps fall as quietly on the floor as possible. Phelan? Phelan sighed and turned away from the sanctuary of the kitchen and slumped across the hall into his father's study. So, how did it go? Have they been destroyed? Phelan averted his eyes and avoided the question. He hated disappointing his father.